Imagery and visualization. First of all, what is visualization that you think of?
It's when you like make pictures in your head of something, basically.
Okay. So you might make pictures in your head, right?
Well, like positive visualization is like different, but that would be like visualizing yourself hitting the shot that you like think you should hit, or like visualizing you winning the next point.
So we're going to get on to different types of visualization, but seeing yourself do things positively. Yes, Lisa Marie?
He took mine. I was
He
going to say
took
imagining
yours?
the ace and then doing the ace.
All right, so imagining something that's going to be positive within the match, like an ace, and then being able to hit the ace. Yes, Jeff?
Training your mind so that you work out all the scenarios that could happen, well, most of them that could happen according to your opponent, and then seeing what could be the best option.
So figuring out how to play someone, especially if you know how they play, going over different scenarios, maybe some positive, maybe some not, proving to be a tough match, and figuring out game plans. There's lots of different ways to approach it. I'll give you examples about how I used to do it. It's not for everyone, right? Each of you is going to find a way to use imagery and visualization. So visualization, sometimes it gets stereotyped as just you seeing stuff, like seeing a movie or seeing, pictures in your head. The reason why we want to use the word imagery as well, what does it mean by imagery? Not just images, but what else can imagery get you to think about? So who uses imagery? Who uses visualization?
I use it in a weird way.
Yes, Jack?
I do.
You do. That's good.
Yeah, backfires mostly.
Okay. Well, no, hang on. If you're using it and it backfires, then we haven't found the most efficient way or the proper way to use it for you. Someone might have told you to do this, this, and this,
Yes.
but it's obviously not working, so we have to find something that does. So apart from you guys, who hopefully some of you do, and some of you will, maybe after today, who else uses imagery and visualization?
I do.
Well, like everyone in their daily lives can visualize things that they.
Everyone can. Not everyone does, but everyone can, right? So you can use them in work scenarios, family life scenarios. But why are we here today? Who else uses visualization? Yeah.
Are you looking for like a professional tennis player?
Tennis players,
It's a stick.
football players, baseball players.
Wait, sorry, you're British. Which football player?
I was talking about American. Otherwise, I would have said soccer. Okay. So, first video I'm going to show you today
Oh, you guys watch a video? Yes,
is a video about Tiger Woods. Alright, so we saw the video with Tiger Woods about how he prepared
Amazing.
and how he used his visualization. He is pretty good at what he does, even to this day. So, we've established that top athletes use imagery and visualization. Why do they use it? Why would we want to use it before we play a match? Not just what it is, but why? What are the benefits? Yes, Dennis?
It helps you win.
How? How does it help you win?
You think about good stuff and it increases your confidence.
There you go. That's what it comes down to. It helps increase confidence because you see things that are going to happen in a match. Yes.
Also, it's definitely very important for confidence, but also like the more you think about something, the more it's gonna happen. Like if it's in your control, the more you think that you're gonna hit a good shot, the more you're gonna hit a good shot.
So positive reinforcement,
Yeah.
which again it can help confidence,
Yeah.
but it's repetition. It's repetition. It's like hitting ball after ball after ball. Your forehand will improve if you hit 1,000 forehands or 10,000 forehands, whatever it might be. What else can it do to help? So it definitely increases confidence, helps you prepare for matches. We talked about that. How else do you think it might help?
Kind of gives you like a clear-cut strategy of what you want to do.
So it helps you plan your strategy. Absolutely. It can be a way for you to put images to some of the things maybe you've talked about as your game plan. So what's helping your confidence is part of it, but if you get nervous before a match, how do you typically feel sometimes?
Nervous?
Nervous is like, but what's another word for nerves?
Shaky.
Anxious.
Anxious, right? Anxiety.
I know feeling
that's why everyone's different. Because some people feel more anxious than others. I know some people sitting here do get very anxious before matches. Not every match, but certain matches. Right? If you take time to visualize the scenarios and how matches can go, that may help lower your anxiety. Okay? To Javi's point, the more the players see themselves being successful, there is a greater belief that they will achieve their goals and objectives, which a lot of the time is winning matches and getting better at the game. So let's talk about visualization as a whole, right? Imagery, there was something that Tiger Woods said very early on in the video about how when he was asked to see the golf shot, he had trouble seeing good golf shots. The golf shots would go left, they go right, they go here, they go there. So what did the coach help him with? What did he say to him to introduce into the visualization to do with imagery?
Nothing. Use his body, like visualize with his body to like.
So you're absolutely correct, but what does that mean? What does it mean to use your body?
Wait, that dude was his coach.
It was a mental coach, sports psychologist.
Kind of told him to like let his body take over and like his self-consciousness,
Okay.
just like not think about anything.
So how can your body be part of a visualization? What other senses does it then involve?
Like before I take a free kick or like before I hit a serve or something, I'll think about it, but I'll also kind of just like kick into the ground a little when it like happens in my head. Yeah.
So you feel it. You
Yeah.
feel it. Sometimes you see people taking shadow swings. Golfers take shadow swings.
Oh, yeah.
Tennis players take shadow swings when they're warming up. So it might be a physical thing, but it also might be feeling like you're taking the kick, even though you're not. Something that's very interesting in the next video we're going to see is the brain trying to differentiate between a very good visualization and reality. And sometimes it has difficulty telling the difference between the two. Which you think is kind of strange because an action is an action and a visualization is not. But if you execute well and you can feel it, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but the better you get at this, you're going to have the sights, the sounds, the smells of these tennis events that you go to, right? If you know that you're playing in a specific venue, and it's maybe an outdoor tournament, you might go there and you might visualize and you might feel the warmth. If it's a summer tournament, you might feel the atmosphere there. You might hear other matches going on. This is all part of your visualization, right? Because when you think visualization right now, it might just be you. But the better you get at this and the more trained you become at it, you can see these different scenarios. And again, some of you are going to benefit greatly from this. Some of you are going to find it a bit strange. But to each their own in terms of what they're going to get out of it. So Jordan mentioned something before he takes a free kick or hits a serve. He needs to feel the ground beneath his feet. Whatever works for him in terms of getting prepared for it. Some people might just need to visualize the match. So this is how I used to visualize. I don't recommend this for everyone, but I needed this because I used to get pretty nervous and anxious and wound up and feel like I was going to play the worst tennis ever when I got nervous. Right? So some of you can relate in terms of really feeling like that might be the case. So before I played a tournament or a big match, whether I knew the opponent or not, most of the times I did if it was a big tournament because the draw was published, right? I would visualize playing this person. I would visualize the tournament venue. I would visualize me getting out there for the warm-up. And I would also imagine everything that could go wrong, going wrong. I would visualize my timing being off. I would visualize my opponent cheating. I would visualize me dumping my favorite shot, which was my forehand in the bottom of the net, right? I would visualize everything that could go wrong going wrong. That doesn't work for some people. That just sends them a little bit more crazy. What it did for me was it presented the worst case scenario that could happen in the match. Then what I would do is I would think about turning the match around. I would think about finding a way to overcome those obstacles, find my rhythm, get past the person cheating, finding a way to fight my way back into the match. And I would always finish the visualization playing better, showing good emotional control, being in control of what I can control, and then I would always finish the visualization with me winning the match. Some people need to keep everything positive. For me, I like to imagine what the worst case scenario would be and me still winning anyway. So what do you think would happen if I got out there in the actual match and I was winning in the first set?
You'd be even more confident.
It'd be great, right? Because I didn't have to worry about all the stuff that I'd worried about. There was no worst case scenario, I was playing great. But what do you think would happen if I found myself 4-1 down, really nervous and not playing well?
Like maybe you would go back to like your mind movie about that
Mhm.
match and like think about that can like how that can happen in real life and that you shouldn't give up.
Exactly. And what would I also know from my visualization? That if I was 4-1 down in reality, what did I know about the outcome?
It's still possible to get back in the game.
That it was still. I'll go take it one stage further. Not only was it possible to get back in, but I was going to win the match anyway. I'd seen this. I knew this was going to happen, and I still win the match anyway. So for me, overcoming the worst possible of scenarios and still winning the match was the way I used to visualize. This was something that was introduced to me probably when I was about 11 or 12, and I used it for my entire junior career. Every single big tournament match I played, I would visualize. Some people may not get the benefit out of it. For me, it changed the way I played matches. Before we talk, and I do want to finish up with some ways in which you can formulate your visualizations and the imagery that's important to you, I do want to show you that second video. What does anyone want to share with me that they thought was fascinating about that video, about visualization, with martial arts, soccer, anything? Yes, Jordan?
If you visualize yourself flexing your bicep as hard as you can 5 times a week, it increases in size by 13.5%. That's not real.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the scientific resources.
That's not real.
But people have sworn that, again, if you visualize correctly in the right way, that it can improve strength, it can improve focus. Here's what I want to talk about. So Dennis, hang on. There are several important things. There were lots of different sports. Javi, you want to say something?
Oh, I have a question about
Oh, yeah,
what you
go ahead.
said. If you just keep doing it forever, do you just get infinitely stronger?
I'm sure your muscles have a limit, but I'm not sure exactly what the parameters were. I'd have to look it up, right? Because if there are studies done, there are things like the placebo effect, right, where you think what you're doing is helping you get stronger. I don't know. The point that I think the video wanted to make was that if you visualize enough and in the correct way, that you can achieve things. The brain cannot differentiate, like we talked about, between a very good visualization and sometimes reality. They talked about soccer, they talked about mixed martial arts, they talked about swimming with Michael Phelps. The one that I want to talk about, which is a bit scary, is that free solo climber who had the movie, right? Free solo. I haven't seen it, but the guy climbs without ropes. What did he say about the visualization that he did?
Well, not only that, but in the movie, like he.
Don't spoil the movie for me. I haven't seen it.
He just spent like they just spent whole frames as him doing like this and this, and it was just like his amount of visualization was that he was working hard on the visualization, and that was the hard work, not the climb itself.
So he envisioned every case scenario, whatever could happen.
Yeah, just like
successful climbs,
worst case
right? So the difference was the worst case scenario for me was losing a tennis match. The worst case for him was dying. Right? That's kind of scary. So, but
Why would he want to risk that?
Because
he
it's
has a
exhilarating.
part of his brain that's different.
So but listen, that's his choice. Like the rush that he gets from that, and but listen, to each their own. The point was, he visualized every scenario, including one in which him losing his grip and falling off. But he had to do that to overcome any fear he might have, because if you get up there and fear takes over and you can't do your job, then bad things are going to happen. 2 different ways of visualizing. When you close your eyes and you think of a visualization, how do you see yourself? Or how do you see the visualization? If you closed your eyes now and thought about you playing in a tennis match, how do you see it?
So I see myself out there with my tennis racket, and me. It depends on the situation, but it could either be me hitting a winner or me playing a defensive point.
So Jack sees himself from a spectator position, right? He sees himself out there on the court. That's one way of doing it, and that's a good way, right?
I can't imagine from my own eyes for some reason.
But other people might look at it as point of view. They might see it through their own eyes.
I can also see it through my own eyes.
I
when
can't
like-
even do that. I don't know why.
So I would look at it almost like a movie. When I was playing, I would just, same as Jack, I would see myself out there from a spectator's point of view.
Yeah.
But there are two different ways you can do it that way, or you can see it through your own eyes.
And sometimes there's like a scoreboard, and they have the angles, and it's like.
Okay, so
Same
you might have
as
actual
CNB.
replays, end to end, side on, right?
Yeah, it's Jack the professional tennis player.
There is, well, you never know, right?
Yeah.
But there is something that I want to be very clear about in terms of the visualization. It doesn't matter how you see it. It needs to be as vivid as possible. What does vivid mean?
Not unclear.
Like it's clear as possible. Like the thing said, like if you can visualize properly, you
Detail.
won't be able to tell the difference between a real life and your visualization. So vivid would mean like that.
So vivid is
Visualization.
not blurry. It's very clear. It's a lot of attention to detail, right? So when you have a vivid dream, same scenario, right? You wake up sometimes, you remember your dream. Say, oh, that you would refer to that as a vivid dream. You remember everything very clearly. Sometimes you wake up and go, I had a dream, but I can't really remember. You know, that's not as clear. The more you practice visualization, the more vivid it can become. The other important thing is to make sure that you're the one, and this sounds crazy, but you are the one that's controlling the visualization. When you're not very good at visualizing, you might close your eyes and it might escalate, or it might go off at a tangent, or you might find yourself not being in control of the match. Right? It's your mind. You should be able to control what happens with your visualization. Tiger Woods, when he started, wasn't very good. He said he couldn't visualize the ball going where he wanted it to go. So, arguably, even though there are others that I know we would talk about, arguably, the best golfer ever, Jack Nicklaus is obviously up there, right? But he had problems visualizing, but now, for the best part of his prime career, it was a big part of what he did. So, aside from wanting to make it vivid, we touched upon it a little bit earlier on. What is important to have in your visualization? Don't talk about points specifically, but what is it important to have in your visualization? Let's make it about tennis. Yes, Alex?
Winning the points.
So for you, winning the points, I would say that's in anyone. Winning the points is important.
But in the end result, winning the match.
Winning the match, right? Because if you're losing the matches, or if you're playing badly, or if you're not getting in a winning habit, how can that possibly develop any confidence? Yes, Dennis?
It's also important to lose the points.
So make it realistic. Maybe you need to lose some points so you can learn from it, so you can bounce back from it. Again, having a realistic visualization is important, because if you're winning every point against a top 5 player in the world, it's not very realistic. So like everything else, it has to be realistic too.
Well, if you're Dennis, it's realistic. He's gonna be.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
We with the chip.
What are some of the things that could go wrong in the visualization? Like if you're saying you want it to be realistic, if you want it to be controllable, what could go wrong?
Well,
Not just the result-wise, but what could go wrong with the visualization?
well, a lot of the time when I'm trying to visualize something, let's say I'm visualizing a point where I hit the ball, like the ball will just randomly just like do a loop-de-loop in the air randomly.
Sure, right? So the ball doesn't do what it's supposed to do, or something comes out of nowhere, like in your visualization.
Lion.
You
That's
shouldn't
not
see that.
realistic at all, yeah.
So I was doing this with another group last year, and they were doing a visualization, and they said, yeah, no, everything was great, except the tennis ball was, they were multicolored tennis balls. And all different colors. And I was like, okay.
Oh, when I had a
So it didn't really have an effect. It didn't really have an effect on the match that they were visualizing, but it wasn't realistic. I mean, I know that they occasionally do pink tennis balls and things like that, but the equipment and the balls and everything, the more realistic it is, the more it's going to positively help you prepare for the match. What else? What else could go wrong with visualization? Yes.
Well, can this be like just tennis or like?
Yeah, sure.
Um.
Could be anything you want in other sports.
Oh well, for the rock climber guy, like falling off and like killing someone who was on the
Right.
below.
So it's a bit extreme, but yes. So not only planning for the worst case scenario, but seeing other things poorly happen that might freak you out, right? So in terms of tennis, losing the match, losing too many points, not playing well, unrealistic things happening, like the ball taking a path, you not being able to run, you being kind of running in slow motion, like things that don't fit the bill.
Oh, and sometimes there's like someone interrupts you, and then you just lose your place. So instead of visualizing like a tennis match, you're visualizing yourself on a basketball court.
Okay, so you might drift off, right? You might visualize to the point where your mind starts wandering off, and you start playing tennis, and then all of a sudden you're playing basketball. It's not unheard of. It's not unheard of. You have to be able to use your imagination, but also still stay focused enough. Yes, Jordan.
When I'm visualizing, sometimes I'll make my opponent perfect. So like I'll hit all these amazing shots in my head, and then like somehow they easily return it.
Oh,
just like they can just walk over and go like and just
So
tap it over.
so that's not going to help you, because that's not going to help you with any confidence. Right?
And I get like sometimes you get frustrated in your own visualization.
Or I'll hit a good shot in my head, and then it'll be like line review and zoom in, and it'll be like this far out.
So, listen, everything, it's all valid, it's all part and parcel of it. What I would love to do, and we've run out of time today, but I would love to, just with a small script next week, have you visualize a certain match or a certain scenario, and then talk about the results, see what you saw, see what helped you, see what was crazy, whether some crazy stuff entered your imagery, or whether you were able to stay grounded. Yes, Abby?
Like next week or the week after?
Sorry, the next time. It's 2 weeks. We don't have mental skills next week. Last thing I'm going to say, so now, as with everything, your visualization is going to be unique to you. Just because someone says their thing works for them, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So, like everything else, you have to find what works, and you have to practice, practice, practice.